Alrighty. Well, hopefully this works this time. Um, Welcome to episode 4 of the Real Talk podcast with myself, Gabe Perez, and my lovely guest for this episode was Amanda. She's a friend of mine that I met through a young adults group here in the local Portlandia area. Um, this actually was recorded back in April. So a nice 5 month delay in recording to posting. We had a good conversation, so hope you guys enjoy. All right, and question. Yep, there we go. All right, now we're all good. Oh, this is it. Amanda, how you doing?
Good.
Okay, introduce yourself. This is also, by the way, welcome to Real Talk. I think it's episode 4, maybe 4 or 5. And this is just 100% for myself and any of my friends that want to listen. So there you go.
So I guess my first question is, should I use my real name?
I mean, if you don't want to, you don't have to. I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know you had like a. You. I don't know. It's up to you. I don't know. Should I call you? Is it? Can I call you Amanda? Is that right?
Okay, let's just keep the first name.
Okay, first name. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, Amanda. I mean, I guess yeah. That's. How's your day been so far?
My day has been pretty decent.
Okay.
School is pretty much over. I just have finals on Tuesday.
Nice. Okay.
So today I woke up pretty late, around 9.
Nice.
Made some coffee, ate some mango.
Ooh.
I love mango.
Is that like your go-to thing in the morning? Fruit?
Yeah, that or a banana.
Yeah.
But
Mango.
since we have mango right now, that's delicious.
Mango sounds good. Do you have like pre-cut mango? Or do you have like your own mango you like peel and cut up?
I peel it.
There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. For me, when I think about like having fruit, I don't know. I don't like to have like pre-sliced stuff, like pre-sliced pineapple or pre-sliced apples or pre-sliced oranges. Like I don't know. I kind of just want to have like if I have a melon, I want to like cut open that melon myself and like dice it up, and I can keep like other stuff that's like that I've cut myself in the fridge. But I think when I buy it in a package, it's kind of weird for me.
It's definitely cheaper to just buy the fruit.
Yes, totally, and that's more where I come from too. I'm like, yeah, this package has like 5 different types of fruit, but it's like $15. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm okay. Yeah, but a single melon's like $4. It's like, okay, I can do that. Yeah, well, that's cool. Um, what is your last final that you have on Tuesday?
I have psychology
Mhm.
and human resources
Okay,
on Tuesday.
nice. So, okay, so I was actually meeting with an old student of mine, John, yesterday, and oh, my dog's growling, and I don't know why, but it's okay. But she says that. But I was talking with him yesterday, and he's taking a psych class. He's like just started his college classes and stuff. But he was saying he doesn't really like psychology that much, and to me that's like so interesting because like, I love psychology, and I've always liked that. Like I took it like 2 years in high school, and then I did another year in college just because like I just loved it so much. But I don't know, like is that something that you're fairly interested in, or is it kind of like mediocre, or are you like indifferent to it?
You know, I really enjoyed my last psychology classes. I took psychology in high school and I really loved it. And I took psychology as a natural science at Clackamas Community College. And that was a really good class too, but this has not been very good or very interesting at all. This is adolescent psychology.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different
And
whole different ballgame.
I feel like I haven't learned much that my own experience didn't teach me
Ah, gotcha.
being an adolescent.
I mean that's fair. Yeah, I mean that is one thing about, and I was talking to John about it. Like there is an interesting thing where a lot of what we know about the brain and psychology is fairly limited. Like we don't. I mean, we have a general understanding of like how the brain and like the mind works, but like it's fairly limited
because there's some things that we're just like we're kind of in the dark about. Like, oh man, like I mean, we know like the structures of the brain and kind of where like activity lights up when you're like excited or sad or stuff like that. But like a lot of stuff we found out from like I mean, there's a story of that guy who's like in the 1800s who had like a railroad tie like go through his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it like changes his
Classic
personality.
story.
Yeah, but it's like that and like 4 or 5 other stories where someone gets hit in the head in that area and lives, and then we're like, oh, so that's how that changes. And it's like, but why? It's like, I don't know, because some people have the same exact incident and
What was
nothing
his
happens to
name?
them. I have no idea. I cannot remember his name at all. On my phone's on the charger. But I have, yeah, no, I just remember like, because you're like, oh, that's interesting. But that story from like the 1800s when they're like building railroads all the time. I mean, do we have anything newer in between like now and then? It's like,
Oh, I'm sure we do.
well, I feel like those are more prevalent. Maybe that's the origin, and that's probably like they're like, hey, this is the history of like how we found this out. This is the first case of it, which is good. But I feel like I don't know, with it just in general, like when you're thinking about, I don't know, just like how things work in the brain, and like I guess how certain things affect us, and how certain things don't affect others, and yet they affect someone else like very powerfully, and even like mental disorders or mental illnesses like Alzheimer's. Like there's like the spiraling like in the cells of the brain, and you're like some people like die and have a lot of those, and it means nothing. Like they didn't have any Alzheimer's, and other people have like very little spirals, or like it's a semi-common thing with people with Alzheimer's. But it's like, what does the spiraling mean? It's like, does it have any effect? How does that happen? It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's like random little things like that you just kind of look into, but it's like, well, we see this. It's kind of common to some people, but some people have it and it doesn't seem to do anything to them. And you're like, well, then what does it mean? Like, how do we? I don't know. So, anyways, I just like psychology and just like the study of the brain and all that stuff. I haven't gotten into it in a long time, but it's just kind of interesting. Like, I don't know. That whole field of study is very, very intriguing to me. So.
It is one of the more interesting subjects, I think.
Yeah. So, what made you like? So, you want to go into human resources, correct?
I'm not so sure anymore.
Okay.
I've kind of been thinking it would be nice to have a simple job.
Okay.
Like, recently I've been thinking I really want to be a bank teller.
Okay.
Did I mention that to you?
I don't think you have. No.
Okay. Well, that's what I've been thinking about how nice it would be to be a bank teller.
Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that is? Like,
just dress nicely every day. You get to interact with people.
mm-hmm.
It's like I don't know if it's minimum wage, but it's like a very basic job, but it still has a level of respectability too.
Yeah. No. Yeah. For sure. Well, I mean, yeah. So first of all, they're a person like handling people's money all day. Like you kind of like people are like, hey, so I trust you with this information. It's like, yep. I kind of have a decent responsibility right now. And plus, like, on top of that, in terms of, like, you're kind of the face of a bank, essentially. Like, and then, like, what does he get? I don't know. I've also been to the bank, like, 3 times this past week because of the stuff in my car.
Oh.
But, like, every time I go in, you always talk to the bank teller. And then, like, every time I've had to, like, go in and, like, do something, I talk to somebody, but they usually have to, like, get the manager. So, like, I don't know about that. And then it's like, it goes from being like this nice like bank teller person to being like, hey, and then they like go get the manager. It's almost more intimidating, and you're like, oh dude, like man, I don't want to like get the manager or anything like, and like, and even if it's like a simple question that just doesn't have an easy answer, I don't know. So I feel like being a teller, you're kind of able to kind of interact with people, but it's not like this. There's no pressure in the like interaction.
Right. It seems fairly low stress, and you get to be friendly.
Yeah. There you go. That's cool. Yeah, I think, right, HR I feel like is kind of low stress. I feel like most of the time it's kind of low stress, and then all of a sudden it gets like really stressful. It was like this one situation you got to walk into. It's like, hey, so I'm reporting this incident to you, and you're like, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it was interesting taking the human resources management class this term. And I think if I wanted to continue in school, that's what I would stay with. So I'm going to try being a bank teller this summer and see how I like it. Because, yeah, I'm not really feeling in school.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that because
Yeah.
it's such like an amazing opportunity to be able to go to school.
Yeah.
But I'd rather just have a simple job, live my life, wait a couple years, have kids.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. No, that's cool. It's like such a, I don't know. It's like, I don't mean this in like any, I don't know. To me, I mean it in a very genuinely positive way. That's like super sweet. I love that. Like, literally just like enjoy your life and don't like think it's like, oh man, I gotta go to school, I gotta have this career, do all this. Is like,
Right.
why don't you just like, and I don't know. For me, like I have a very, so for like going back to your first thing that you said, like I don't really feel school most of the time. I've never really have. Even when I was in culinary school, like it was like I loved it a lot, but it was also like I had to take like nutrition classes and stuff like that as well, and I forgot most of that because it was all online. So I don't really like online classes. It just don't really vibe for me. But took a nutrition class and I took a kitchen management, so essentially like how to manage a kitchen and get like certified to be a kitchen manager in the state of New Mexico at least. And so I got my ServSafe license and my ServSafe manager license through a class at school, and then I also started my culinary like skills, the actual practicing stuff in the kitchen and the theory of it and practice. So I got to be able to do all that, and I liked it, but it was kind of the extra studying that I had to do at times. It was just like exhausting, and I also didn't have like any money to like buy food to experiment with. So I was like, I would like to have like done more of the, hey, like, so we're practicing this, or my chef encourages me to try this out or to try more of this. But it's like I have to buy on my own stuff outside of school to like experiment with that. It's like I don't have any money, so that's not going to happen.
Right.
So I feel you on like the whole no school, or not really feeling school, because that's, I don't know. I think for one, like I don't know. I think there's a big generalized push that like if you don't go to school, like you're doing something wrong, and it's like I don't think that's true at all. And I think, and I kind of have always thought that, but mostly just because I was a rebellious teenager who just didn't want to be there. And then as I've gotten older, it's like, well, I mean, you could easily just like do a trade, or like, you know, become an apprentice under someone and do something, or even just like, you know, start off at a basic wage job, but then like move up and just, you know.
And there are opportunities to become like a banker or a bank manager as a bank teller.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say there's easily. I mean, that's what my sister did.
Oh, really?
She's been working at Wells Fargo, I think, for I don't know, like how many years. She's been working there a long time, but now she's like one of the. She's not a manager, but she's definitely one of the actual bankers. Like she's like one of the. I'm pretty sure that's what she does. But she has like her own little office space and all kinds of stuff. So she's like,
cool.
Yeah, and she started off as a teller. And I remember, because my sister was doing something completely different before that, and all of a sudden she was a bank teller, and I was like, Sabrina, why are you a bank teller? I was like, what the heck? Where did that come from? It was like, oh, it was just a job. And then she ended up progressing more and more.
Did she like it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think she actually enjoyed that quite a bit, and I think there's a lot of aspects of her job now that I think because it's a little bit more responsibility, there's a little bit more stress because she's a banker and because she has to take on more, and there's more expected of them as the bankers, like because you're kind of the people that are handling more of like handing out loans and talking to people and kind of sitting down and explaining stuff like that. And like if you give out a loan to somebody or approve somebody for a loan, or say that somebody's approved, then like they're not able to pay that loan back, then the bank's basically losing money off of a thing that you approved, that you put through. So then it's kind of like okay, so there's a little bit more responsibility I think that she has with that, and there's more pressure. And so with that, I don't think she necessarily, and great that I haven't talked to her in depth about this, so I could be getting this wrong, so sorry Sabrina if you ever hear this, doubt you will. But you know, I think for the most part she has enjoyed her work life at Wells Fargo for the most part this entire time. So, and she always helps me. Like, I had bank with Wells Fargo anyways, so like I usually, if I have a question about something, or you know, my mom has a question, like we'll like, hey Sabrina, da 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 da, how does this work? Or hey, how can I do this? And she'd like, oh, it's actually better if you know do this with your money, or open this account, or you know do it this way with this card and stuff like that. Because she just knows the system a little bit better, and so it's like she's just able to help us understand how to navigate it just a little bit better. So
nice.
Yeah, but Yeah, so I think that that's, for one, like, it's a very enjoyable line of work, and I think that for me, and looking, because you're talking about it's not, you said it wasn't sure if it was a minimum wage job or not, but there's opportunity to move up. Like, for me, I think my perspective is at least that as long as you're like able to take care of what you need to take care of, like pay your bills and like have a little bit of money every now and then to go out, like, and let's say you have kids, which would be awesome, being able to like take care of your kids and provide for them and give them what they need and maybe a little bit extra, like I don't think you really need more than that, like, and at least in my opinion, like I also am kind of very minimalist type of person, I guess. Like I'm like, I have all I need,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, my house is good, like.
I think I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied with where I'm at currently.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with, thinking about, planning and trying to strive for more, but I think it's also like, especially as Christians, like we gotta remember like to be satisfied in what we have. If we're materialistic in our lives, and what are we idolizing? What are we thinking about most? It's like probably just our material life then. And obviously it's good to like save for retirement and have all those other things, and those should be factored in eventually. But at the same time, it's like if your goal is just to buy a bigger house and get more cars or just have nicer things all the time, it's like it's kind of an empty way to live. If like that's what you're striving for, is just a bigger house. It's like, well, why do you need a bigger house? Like maybe you just need less stuff. Like I don't know. That's just, I don't know. And it's easier for me to say now as like a younger person who doesn't have kids, and my wife enjoys her job, and she's not very materialistic either, so it's like kind of a very simple life. And granted, as you walked into our house, it's very, very cluttered and dirty right now, so apologies. I literally cleaned a bunch on Monday, and then it is now Friday, and everything's just wrecked.
It happens.
It's horrible. Well, and plus, like, so I twisted my ankle last night at like 10 o'clock, and then I didn't get home until like 11 because it was. So at George Fox, they have like a ultimate frisbee kind of league, or not, I don't know if it's a league. It's just kind of like a general club, but they kind of open it up to anybody and everybody. And so I've been wanting to go to it for a long time, but I have not actually been able to like figure out when and where they meet. I just knew it happened on Thursdays for sure, and I was like, okay, well, where? And then I couldn't find out, and then I was like trying to figure it out, and then I kind of was like, well, I haven't been able to go, so I'm just not going to go. And then ended up finally connecting with one of my old students. His name's John, and he was actually one of the 3 students I started off with at my first youth group. So my first youth group was 3 kids, and he was one of them.
Nice.
So it was like John, Caleb, and Cole. So that was the 3 of them, and so they were all buddies, and that's kind of who I had in my first youth group. And now he just started at George Fox this semester, and while he was there, he was telling me about the Ultimate Team, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's cool." He's like, "Yeah, man." He's like, "You totally come." I was like, "Are you sure?" It's like, I'm a grown man. Like, I don't go to school. Like, I'm like already well removed from college and all this other stuff. And he was like, "Yeah, man, it's fine." He goes, "There's like teenagers and like old guys. Like, there's like, it's kind of just open." And I was like, "All right, cool." And so then I missed him a few weeks ago, and then I went on Tuesday. It was a really good time. And then I went last night.
Nice.
Yeah. And then during our last, so we played 3 games, and during our last game, I just cranked my ankle in the beginning of our 3rd game, and then basically limped off, and I was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna play."
Were you able to drive home?
Yeah, it was my left ankle.
Oh,
so
good.
yeah, my right foot was good. Thank the Lord. I actually was thinking about that when I got in my car, because I was like, dude, if it was my right ankle, I can't. Like, have you ever tried to drive with your other foot?
I have not. It seems hard.
It is so hard because like you don't realize how much control you actually have with your foot. But then like you put like let's you try to brake with your left foot, you like jerk super hard because you don't know how much pressure to apply. It's all of a sudden it's just like there. You're like, oh my gosh, and you're like trying to push on the gas. It's like, and you're like, oh shoot, it's either that or you're just like not even going. You're like, when is it gonna start? And you just it's horrible. So I would not advise it, but I have definitely tried it multiple times, and I was like, if I had to drive my left foot, I would not have been able to do it. So because it's like from here to the campus, it's literally you just keep going on Pacific Highway. Like, you just don't turn off. You just go straight on this road. And it's about 25 minutes just one way. So if I were to drive with my left foot on a dark road for half an hour, don't think it'd go very well. So I was like, I'm glad it was my left foot for sure. I probably would have had to just tough it out with my right foot, but I was gone like really slow. But yeah, no, I'm feeling good. It's not fractured. So, but this last night and this morning were a fiasco, which is half the reason the house is a mess. So yeah.
What happened?
What do you mean?
Fiasco wise.
Oh, well, just because like I got so Rachel had worked today at 9 a.m. And for her, she really like needs her sleep for sure. She doesn't really do great whenever she doesn't have her sleep, and she doesn't do great when she doesn't have time to kind of wake up in the mornings. Like for me, I'm kind of like if I get like 3 hours of sleep and I just wake up and I'm in a rush and I'm in a panic and I just fly out the door. Like I can kind of operate like that and just do it for a long time.
I see.
So I'm okay with like I can stay up late and I'll like get up early like if I need to. Then like work obviously that's like important. You have to do it. So I would just get up and like run and I'd just go. But like I can't have that kind of ebb and flow of my life because that's not how her ebb and flow of life is. If I like try and just say oh we'll be fine like let's just go like 20 minutes before you got to go to work and it's like. No, you can't just like rush somebody and like force them to live how you live. So for us in general, she needs to get to bed earlier. So she went to bed earlier because I was out playing frisbee, and she didn't really want to play anyway. So I was like, oh, okay. But so she went to bed and she had her phone off though. So I was calling her trying to say, hey, can you like help me try and get up the stairs once I get home and hey can you get some ice ready and like get all these things so I don't have to like hobble around the house and get all these things but her phone was off and I tried to call either of our Google Homes because they're like connected via Google and then I stopped the music that was playing in the Google Home in the bedroom but I think she was already asleep at that point so I stopped the music to try and get her attention so did everything I possibly could to try and do it. And I was like texting her, I called her, I messaged her on Instagram, like I did everything. Obviously she wasn't looking at it, she didn't have her phone, and her phone ringer wasn't on. So then I come home and I'm like, Rachel! And then Akira's like barking because like I'm just like stomping on one foot through the house and it's like 11 o'clock at night and then like the house is a mess and there's like dinner that was still left out because she thought I was going to eat it when I got home. And then I was like trying to like get ice and then all these other things. And I was like, hey, can you just get me some like, pain reliever out of the cabinet so I don't have to walk over there. And then I slept on the couch because I didn't like want to have to like deal with all the blankets and having to get up and walk all the way around our bedroom, all the way to the kitchen and all the way out. So I was like, if I'm in the living room, it's fairly central. So if I need to go to the bathroom or go to the kitchen, it's a much shorter walk than having to like walk everywhere all the time. So I ended up just sleeping on the couch and I like didn't sleep very well and then got up at 7 and then basically had to like tell Rachel, hey, we got to leave early because normally we would leave around like if she were to work at 9, we'd try and leave the house around like 8:30. But we ended up leaving the house at 8 just so we could go to the Walgreens, get me some crutches from there so I didn't have to get crutches from the hospital because it'd be more expensive. And then dropped her off at we were going to drop her off at work. Then we ended up getting donuts. That was kind of nice. Yeah. So we found this donut place right by her work. And because she was all stressed out from last night and she was also stressed out from this morning because she didn't have time. She didn't have a good sleep and then she didn't have a good morning because I'm like, in pain, like trying to do stuff and hobbling around and we're trying to make sure Akira doesn't bump into my foot and twist it all weird and I'm in pain, a foot swollen, and she's like, so the donut was a little bit for me, a little bit for her. Both of us kind of just like, okay, let's take a deep breath. You're about to go into work. I have to drive myself to the hospital, so let's just figure this out. So it was actually a pretty good morning. We sat and talked for a little bit before work, and then I dropped her off, went to the hospital, and basically from 9 till about 1 o'clock. I was doing stuff.
Wow.
But it was a 2-hour wait. So I drove home, took a shower because I didn't shower from the night before because I was just not trying to walk. So I was like, I'm just going to sit and ice my foot and go to bed. So I came home, showered, and then went back to the hospital, waited another half an hour, and then they called me in, got me an x-ray, and then checked it out, and then gave me a brace. So, yeah.
Okay. Wow, so you've had a busy day.
Yeah, yeah, and I forgot that I was supposed to call a lady from the church to help coordinate cleaning out one of the rooms so I could use it for the youth group. And so she called me at like 1 o'clock when I was driving back, and she goes, "Hey, Gabe, so I was just calling because you said you were going to call me this morning, and I have to go for the afternoon, and so I just wanted to follow up." And I was like, crap. I was like, I completely forgot. I knew I had something going on today, but then like with everything else that had happened, didn't even think to stop and like think, hey, what did I have going on today? Because it was like, my ankle's messed up, I need to go to the hospital, and then I have other stuff for the car I need to do today. So I was like, yeah, I just didn't even think about it. And so I talked with her on the way here, and then I got lunch, and then came home, calmed Akira down, because she's also scared of the crutches.
Oh no.
Yeah, so found that out when I came back to take a shower. So I walk in the door and she starts barking at me because she's like, dude, what the heck's this weird thing walking in? And then she sees me, but then she like hears these things like clanging and she's like, just like freaking out. And then I'm like, dude, it's fine. And then she's like running away from me and I'm like, dude. And so then I kind of stick it out so she could smell it. And then she like gets like 2 feet away and then runs away. And I'm like, gets a foot away and then runs away. So yeah, she's a little nervous, but then she got close eventually and started smelling them and realized like, hey, like they're not gonna hurt me. So yeah, it's been a fun morning.
Wow.
But it's been good though. It's been good. So no, I remember your boyfriend's name. It's I'm sorry. What's his name again? I don't want to say the wrong thing. I know I'm going to say it like completely wrong. Sarup. Oh my gosh. Oh god.
Totally fine.
I was going to say something completely different. I knew
What
it was.
were you going to say?
I was going to say like Apu or something. Oh god. Oh Lord Jesus.
I'm going to tell him.
Oh god. Oh Sarup. I need to like tattoo this on my hand.
No.
It's going to say Amanda Sarup, and that's it right there. And I'm just
Draw a little heart around it.
Yes, that's it. It'll be great. Oh man, that's so. How is Sarup doing?
Good. He's a little stressed out from work.
Okay. What does he do for work?
He's a mechanical engineer.
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, because he passed his engineering thing the other day. Nice.
Yeah, he did.
So what is that? So now he's like officially like an engineer, or
I think
like
he needs a couple more months of experience before he can get his professional engineering license.
Okay.
But he's passed the test, so he'll be
Okay.
ready when he has the experience.
Nice. Okay. There you go. So what's got him stressed out with work then? Is it just a lot of projects or?
Yeah, a lot of projects and the deadlines are coming up, so he's fallen behind. And I guess unless he works like over 60 hours a week, he's going to be falling behind.
Yeah.
So the expectation is just really high, and that puts a lot of stress and pressure on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. Having to work a lot, and if you don't, then you're kind of behind the ball. But then it's like if you're behind the ball, it's like I'm just trying to work a healthy schedule, and it's like, well, that's not what we do here. So sorry. Yeah. Is he liking it though? Like.
He likes it. Yeah, I think he likes it decently. He's looking for something else though that's a little less demanding.
Yeah, maybe like a different engineering firm. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that, like with Rachel, for her that's a big part of like what she would want to try and do. Like if she were to, because she actually really likes the Container Store, and like now that she's working full time and designing a lot of closets and stuff, it's really cool.
Designing closets sounds fun.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I was like, and for one, I did not even think that the Container Store had like custom closet designing stuff at all. Like when I walk in there, there's like closets, and it's just like, oh yeah, this is like $1,200 or like $2,000 or $500, and you're like, okay, like I mean that's a cool looking closet, but it's like I'm not gonna buy that. Like, but you don't realize that you can actually customize different types and like there's like different levels of like pricing you can also go into too. So if you want to spend a lot of money, you can do that. But if you don't want to spend that much money, you can still customize it, but at a much lower price. And it was like, what? Like, how is this a thing? And then she always like likes to design stuff on her phone, anyways, like design games, and then she ends up doing custom closets, and I'm like, gosh dang, that's like super cool.
It's perfect for her then.
Yeah. So like, when talking about like different like science, firms or groups like that, like if she were to go into like geology, oh my gosh, what am I thinking of? What's the thing where they go and they like look at stuff and they tell you how to do it or something, or like they evaluate like your property, like what's it called? Oh my gosh, it's like what's it called? Not a surveyor, maybe a surveyor. I don't know. Oh, where they like recommend stuff. Oh my gosh, Amanda.
I can't help you.
I'm freaking. Oh my gosh, because it's like it's not a referral, not a recommendation. It's like a geology. Oh my gosh, I don't know, but like essentially it'd be like a geology firm of some kind. I don't know if it's a firm, what you would call it, but like they're like a business that essentially goes out and like looks at properties and can like advise people on that, like, and essentially like look at what they have going on, look at the soil levels, and look at the area around where they're using for whatever purpose they have, and like knowing what purpose they have with that land, like how can you use what you have, or how can you make sure you don't damage any land in the area with when you're doing what you're doing, So she was thinking about like, because her degree is in environmental earth sciences. So she was thinking if she were to kind of go with a geologist firm or something like that. I don't know what it's called. I sound very uneducated right now, just spewing out random phrases, hoping this come to me. But she was thinking if she were to try and go into that, she would realize that for one, she would probably be on the road a decent amount, like out, like kind of doing
in the field.
Yeah, like field work, a ton of field work, more than likely, especially as somebody who might be younger, like and newer. She would probably have to be out with people, even if she's not leading it. She might have to be like learning on the job stuff from people a lot, and probably doing that for a long time. And that could be for like, hey, you got to leave for like a week, or hey, you got to leave for 3 weeks, or you got to leave for 2 weeks, and or like you got to drive out 6 hours to a spot and then stay there for 2 days and then drive 6 hours, back 2 days later. Just could be very simple stuff like that, or could even just be like office work. You got to, look at blueprints and look at, whatever those, like the geo mapping stuff to look at an area. Could just be looking at that for a long time and looking at core samples. I don't know. So there's just a lot of variability with it, which I think is part of what she likes about it. And she does really enjoy looking and talking about rocks. This is like, it's kind of dorky, but it's part of the reason I drew me to her. But she still enjoys all that and would like to do it. But I think balancing that with having a healthy home life and like being here is also kind of hard too. Because I think that's the hard part about like the sciences, like engineering and geology and even like physics and all these different things. You kind of have to spend a decent amount of time in it to kind of, I guess, make progress, which is unfortunate, but it's also part of the gig. But but I'm glad that he's at least he's enjoying it somewhat, even if it's kind of stressful. So yeah. So how, this also, some of these questions might be like repetitive or not repetitive, things I've already asked you before.
Okay.
I also just have a very bad memory sometimes.
That's fine.
So I literally can barely remember his name, so I apologize. But how did you guys meet?
We met on OkCupid.
OkCupid?
Uh-huh. Okay. So it's a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that app because you can answer questions.
Okay.
And it'll compare your answers to other people's.
Okay.
And so we met, and this was during the beginning of COVID.
Okay, yeah.
So our first date was I don't think it was Zoom. I think it was like Google Chat or some kind
video.
Of, FaceTime, something like that.
Yeah.
So we video chatted, and it was really awkward.
Okay.
But we decided to go for an in-person date too. So then we went to Mary S. Young Park.
Okay.
We
I don't know where that
went
is.
for a walk.
Yeah.
It's in West Lynn.
Okay.
We chatted. We really got along. And then we got some sushi. And he ate most of it.
Are you just not a sushi person, or he was just really hungry?
He was just really hungry. He eats a lot. That's one thing. And he kept coming around and eating all my food.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Is that one of those things you're kind of like in the moment you're like, dude, what the hell? But then like
that, yes.
Yeah.
Now I don't really care.
Yeah.
But because he's worth it.
Yeah.
But in the moment I was like, one, why is he hanging out so much?
Yeah.
Because he kept coming over and staying over and for like a couple days at a time.
Yeah.
He wasn't working at this point.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't know how to tell him I need space.
Yeah,
I need time to clean.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, I want to get freshened up and like be presentable and the house to be presentable and yeah.
So I remember getting kind of frustrated with him a couple times, but yeah, that's kind of how it started. And we went swimming a lot. We like to swim in the river.
Oh, nice. Where do you guys go? Just like
we mostly go to High Rocks.
High Rocks. Where
that's
is
in
it?
Gladstone.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I don't. So obviously, I'm a newbie mostly to the area, so I'm pretty.
Well, you guys should come swimming with us this summer.
Yes, Rachel would love that.
Especially on those hot days.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, Rachel. So we have the pool here, and
oh yeah, that's nice.
last year we didn't use it at all, even during the heat wave.
Why is that?
I don't know. I literally have. I think mostly because it was a lot of families and kids, and it's like super crowded.
Okay.
And so you kind of have to like put up with like kids and families, and there's a lot of families in this like apartment complex, which is great. You know, it's like young, safe environment for like everybody. You know, when there's kids, there's a general sense of like security, because if the kids and the family feel safe, then like everybody kind of relaxes a little bit, because you realize like, hey, we're all here together. Whenever there's a lack of kids is usually where things get kind of weird and like dangerous.
Okay.
So at least that's what I found. And so because it's like whenever like families feel like they can go out and be like normal, then you're kind of like, oh, this is a nice area. You know, like families feel safe, like they allow their kids to just hang out. You know, and it's cool to kind of see like the little apartment complex kids is, you know, making friends, and they're all like running around together and being rambunctious and stuff. And people get irritated at them because they're annoying and loud, but you're like, yeah, that's whatever, you know. And you get annoyed with them, but you're like, they're kids, you know, you get over it. But the pool specifically, like, especially whenever it was baking hot last year, when it was like 100 degrees for like forever. And like everybody and their brother was in the pool almost the whole time. And even at night, like, it was like 80 degrees, 85 degrees. And we live in the second story, and there's like one cooling unit at the front of the house.
Oh.
Yeah, so we don't have any AC in these back rooms at all. Under that big window in the front room, there's only one small AC unit.
Wow.
So yeah, there was multiple
rough.
nights that we slept in the living room because it was like too hot in here. So because in the mornings, like the front gets baked because the sun comes up over there, but it sets on this side. And so the back rooms in the evening or the mornings would be cooler-ish. But then as soon as it got to like afternoon, like the whole house is hot. And then like evening, the sun's just baking these back two rooms. And like even if you open the doors, like it's that AC unit is like not able to circulate that much air. It's just like too big of an area for that small little unit. And so if you open the doors, all the hot air just pours in, and it makes that room hot too. So we would just close the doors, and we just like stayed in the living room, and we like slept in the living room, like me, Rachel, and Akira, just like. And it's funny. It was funny but really sad. Like because it was so hot, like Akira would just lay underneath the fan in the kitchen on the tile because it's the coolest. So she would just lay sideways flat, and she would just wouldn't move for like an hour just because it was so hot. And it was like I felt horrible. And like the thing is, you try to like get like a wet towel to cool her off. She hates being wet. So she didn't want to, like, you couldn't cool her down. You couldn't do anything for her. And you can get her water, but, like, water doesn't just cool you down. So it was just, yeah, it was rough. It was a horrible time. So, and then because we didn't go down to the pool, we never really cool off. So, yeah, it was, I would gladly go swimming with you guys. And Rachel would love that. That'd be awesome. So anyways, you guys, so you met, you guys ate, he was hanging out a lot, and then you guys went swimming a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know. And so you guys have been dating for like 2 years now?
Yeah, it'll actually be 2 years on the 25th, which I think is Monday.
Yeah, there you go.
We're celebrating on Sunday by going to Nimblefish.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know where Nimblefish is, but cool.
It's sushi.
Oh. Yeah. Are you guys pretty big sushi people?
We are.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? There's so many sushi places out here. Like, there's a lot of sushi places out in, like, this area. Like, just in Oregon in general. I don't know if it's, like, Portland-ish. But, like, obviously in New Mexico, like, there's not... Ocean is very far away. So any sushi place is either going to be frozen fish, which isn't very good, or it's very expensive because they usually have to fly everything in, either overnight or, like, the night before. So it's, like... It's either very expensive or it's like not good to eat. So I didn't grow up eating sushi at all. And the first time I ever tried sushi was with my friend Tiana. Call her TT. Me and TT, and I think there was another girl. But they took me to a sushi place because like, sushi's so good. I was like, I don't know about this. And I like put it in my mouth and like I almost threw up, and I was like,
what?
I was like, because it was the texture, it was weird. Yeah, it was really sad. And I think honestly it was not the best sushi anyways, because whenever I was out in Hawaii for Rachel and I's honeymoon, I had sashimi. So that was one thing that I was like, I love sashimi. Like, that's one thing that's like deconstructed sushi for me. Is just like, I think actually putting it together and making it how I want to make it and kind of just having that, like, that allowed me to kind of have a much wider palette for sushi and the kind of raw seafood in general. So
do you like sushi now?
Oh, love it. I absolutely love it. I used to not at all. So that's why, but that was kind of the beginning of it, because I remember telling Rachel, I was like, if we're going to Hawaii, for one, I was the one who paid for because her family and my family kind of like they kind of came together to help pay for the wedding and everything else. So if you guys can help with that, and that'd be great. But I'm like, if anybody wants to help with like money and gifts and stuff like that, it would just be for the honeymoon. Everything's going to go to the honeymoon, and so
that's a good idea.
Yeah, it was. So I saved for a little over a year just to try and get enough money so we could. For one, the tickets are obviously very expensive, and then like food for 2 people for a week in Hawaii for 3 meals a day is very expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I was like, you know what? If we're here, like, this is going to be probably the best seafood that you and I are going to be able to get in our lives. So I was like, we are eating seafood. That is what we are eating. And so that's what we did. And like the first night we actually got into Hawaii, so we got there, it was around 12 or 1 o'clock, but like because of the time difference, it was actually like much later in the day, I think, because we gain hours going west whenever we're doing that. So I think we landed, I think it was like 4 o'clock at home time, but then it was like only 12, and so it was like, yeah, we kind of already ate a little bit, it's not yet dinner time for us. So we ended up walking around, and then we checked into our Airbnb later. And then I think the first meal I remember getting was the sashimi thing in this like restaurant on like right on the ocean. It's like right there.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was like all the hotels and everything, all the restaurants are like, it's basically just outside, just open, because it was on Maui. So Maui's not a very big island anyways. So and so most of the touristy places that have a lot of restaurants and things like that, you can go to more local places, but places that have like nice restaurants, they're all touristy, and they're almost all kind of like in that open setting. Like even like the windows in the Airbnb or the B&B that we were in, they're just like wooden slats that like don't fully like close. So there's like decent gaps in the windows, of like, and so they're just like, because everything's so balmy, like you kind of just have, like, it's like very open, like the air is very open, everything's kind of windy and breezy.
Nice.
It was really nice, and granted, like you can still cool off if it was hot. You can kind of close it, and it kind of mostly shuts the air and doesn't have too much an airflow. But yeah, no, it was a really really cool experience. And when I was there, I loved eating sashimi, and that was like I was like, well, we're here. And my first meal there, I had this big ass plate of sashimi, and it was
Nice.
so good.
Oh,
Oh
man,
god,
you're
it was
making
so
me
good.
hungry.
Have you had lunch,
Not yet.
dude? I was like, I hope you get lunch before you came here, because I was like, okay, oh, man. Well, do you have any plans after this or no? Dude, we should go grab something to eat if you're cool with that.
Yeah.
Cool, because there's a sushi place, Sushi Hana.
Oh, have you eaten yet?
Yes. Oh no, I did eat. Yeah.
Oh,
So because I hadn't eaten anything, and typically I have a protein shake in the morning,
Okay.
and then I have a snack, and then I have another protein shake.
Nice.
So I'm very used to eating stuff, and then I didn't eat anything since last night at like 8 o'clock, and so then was like, because I left at like 8:30, and then got home at 11 and passed out on the couch, and then woke up, had coffee, and then didn't eat until 1 o'clock. So I had a long gap in my food ingestion time. So yeah, we definitely get something to eat after this for sure. But
Recently, I've been trying to do OMAD,
oh man,
which is one meal a day.
oh okay,
Except I didn't do that this morning because I had mango.
yeah.
But usually I just, or the last few days, I've been trying to do this. Just don't eat breakfast or lunch and just eat a dinner
Okay,
evening.
nice. Do you usually have it like kind of mid to late afternoon or
Yeah,
early evening?
or like 5.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so growing up, did you ever have did you have dinner around 5 or 6, or like when did you have
Yeah,
dinner?
5 or 6.
Okay, so I was very vivid memory of this one time my mom tried to get me and my sister to eat at like 5 or 5:30, and me and my sister were like, "What are we doing?" And my mom was like, "Guys, we're trying to eat dinner." I was like, "Why are we eating dinner so early?"
What time did you usually eat it?
Like 6:30 or 7. Like we always ate later. I don't know what it was.
Okay.
And so like I remember my mom was like trying to get us. She tried for a few nights in a row, and me and my sister made the biggest fuss about it. Cause we're like, "What are we doing?" And it's like because my grandparents always ate at 5 or 5:30. I was like, "We're not old, Mom." And she was like, "Guys, regular people eat at 5 or 5:30." I was like, "No, Grandma and Grandpa eat at 5:30." So I was always used to like eating later, and I remember we made such a fuss about it, and it was like. Now I look back, it's like, no, we just ate late. I just realized, like, but granted, that's kind of my mode now too, because like Rachel doesn't get off until 6:45 or 7. So
Oh,
then,
really?
like, I don't. So even if I'm making dinner, I'll either start making it just before she gets off, and then I'll finish it when she gets home, or I'll start when she gets home.
Okay.
So we usually don't eat until 7:30 or 8 sometimes. So that makes it a little bit hard if we're like, hey, like let's go out with like another couple or something, and like go have dinner with them. It's like. Well, maybe they don't want to eat dinner at 8 o'clock. So we can like go out and like grab drinks with somebody, but then we'll usually get an appetizer because that's like usually our dinner. So, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So did you, no, I think I've asked you this. You did grow up in Oregon, right?
Yes.
And you grew up in Oregon City.
I grew up in Milwaukee.
Okay. Well, yeah.
It's pretty
So,
close to Oregon
yeah,
City.
Yeah. So for you, like having grown up here, because like, my experience of Portland, just growing up, knew almost nothing about it. I heard about Seattle because of the Seahawks, so the football team. I heard about Portland, and I heard Portland and Seattle were very rainy,
Yes.
and that's basically all I knew about it. And then, like, obviously, fairly recently, the past few years, like, with George Floyd stuff and all the stuff that was happening, and just a lot of political turmoil and social unrest, and a lot of things happening in downtown Portland, just seeming like that was just kind of the norm of like the area. Have a very, very limited window of how life out here has actually been and how it's developed. So like my perspective is like, whoop, like very small. Oh, it's like limited to the past like few years, and then like my very brief and tiny exposure as a child of it being rainy, and that's it. So like having grown up in like a suburb of Portland, basically, like how have you seen this area, I guess, change and develop like in your time here?
Well, I think it has been a fairly regular hub for political protests
Okay.
because there was definitely the big Black Lives Matter
Mm-hmm.
protests this summer, last summer.
Yeah.
And then I remember a number of years ago, there were the Wall Street protests.
Okay.
Remember that?
I don't.
Okay, I don't remember what it was called, but it was against Wall Street.
Is it whenever they all got bailed out? Like they gave like the Wall Street like 100 or 350 like $1 billion to like basically pay off their debt, so that way they didn't go bankrupt.
I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
This was when I was like in middle school, I think.
Okay. Well, and you're 23, 24?
24.
24, yeah. Yeah, because your birthday was just the other day.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Happy belated birthday again. Yeah, okay, so middle school, oh my gosh, I'm trying to do math. Well, let's say it was about 10 years ago. 11. Let's go. You think like you were like 6th or 7th grade, you think?
Let's say, 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay. So that would be
2022, right?
Yeah,
it's
so
2012.
2011, 2012. Man, I don't know what that. Well, because I guess there was like the Tea Party. Like I know there was like, oh man, like outrage at the Tea Party for whatever reason. I don't know. Like I'm so out of the loop.
It was like the 99% against the 1%.
Oh yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes,
okay,
I totally remember
good,
that.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone's making a deal about like, oh man, like the top 2% or the top 1%. Yeah, and like the higher up you go, like the top like 0.5% controls like most of it, and then like you go like the next 1% controls like slightly more, and then it trickles down a lot because it's like extremely top heavy once you go to the top, and then it like really falls out, really falls out like soon after that. But the interesting, sorry, I go back. You're not asking about that. So it was a political hub for things, yes.
Yes. But everyone has noticed that the homeless problem has gotten much worse.
Okay.
It's always been here, but it's definitely gotten worse these last few years. Yeah, but I didn't live by that too much.
Yeah.
In Milwaukee, where both my parents grew up in Milwaukee too.
Okay.
A little off topic, but what do you think about UBI?
UBI.
Universal Basic Income.
Oh, okay.
Do you think that would solve some of the homelessness?
I don't. I don't think it would solve homelessness. I think that it would give. I think if you were to work on solving homelessness first, and then institute UBI, I think that would be a great idea.
Okay.
But I think just giving people money when they're already kind of living as they are without necessarily needing to change anything, that doesn't facilitate change to me in my mind. Like if I could just live on the street and get $1,000 to $1,200 a month, just living on the street. People don't realize like if I have a tent on the side of the road, like $1,200 goes a lot for food per month. Like you can easily live off that for a month. Granted, you're not going to be eating the best food and you're not going to be living the high life, but you very easily could live off that for a month if you didn't have housing and rent and all kinds of like other extra things to pay, and you didn't have to pay for like for people that have like a storage container, like if they have extra stuff for their house or they don't have like multiple cars you have to pay for, like all that stuff adds up a lot. And so if you take those big chunks of things out, like even like health insurance, like if you give people health insurance, you give them income, and you just say you can live wherever, then you kind of like there's not really an incentive to like do anything because you can just exist and put money back in the system and get it right back, But I think if people were to actually have a basic income provided for them on the grounds that they're at least working or maintaining a household, and as well trying to contribute in other ways, then I think it would be fine. Because I think you could even get like a very, very basic job. Like, let's say you're working part time bagging groceries. Like, you're working 15 hours a week. Like, you can't live off 15 hours a week, but you have universal basic income, but you also have that extra income to help, cover what that income doesn't. And you still can live securely without necessarily needing to feel like, man, I need to work 3 jobs just to maintain the expectations that everybody has for me, or to have the expectations that the Western world has established as normal. So I'm not against it at all, but I think that it would be more detrimental to implement it before actually working and taking big steps in solving the homelessness problem first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important that people work or maintain a household too before receiving that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, have you ever looked at and I don't know, like looked into how much, specifically with California, because they're like the most egregious out of everybody, but like how much they're spending to try and like build housing, or like they're putting into the system to be able to try and solve homelessness?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so like, and I don't know how it's up here. Like, I mean, do you know how much money like Portland puts into like homelessness?
I have no idea.
No idea. I don't know. I have no idea out here
Do you want
either.
me to look it up?
I mean, that'd be good. Yeah. I mean, it's like Joe Rogan podcast has a guy that does that. So we're just a poor man's Joe Rogan, apparently, with Christians. So, but yeah. So for to me, like, I never really thought about the homelessness issue, like about like who is doing what to fix it. It's just like, man, it just seems like a weird issue. Like, I don't know if anyone is actually making progress towards it, or if anyone's focused on it, or if anyone's even spending money towards it, or if they're spending a lot of money. Like, I had no perspective on it, like, at all. And then the more I've, for one, just heard and listened, especially on like Joe Rogan's podcast and different people, like, and some of the guests he has on, that their main focus is trying to solve the homelessness problem and the issues. It's amazing how much money actually goes into trying to solve the problem in, like, mostly just LA, which is a majority of the problem in California, but like hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. So this says that the money spent on the homeless crisis since the emergency declaration has been $286.4 million in Portland.
Oh, dang! Wow. Dang. And when was that? When was that established? Or when was
2021. This was as of 2021.
Oh my gosh. So literally since last year?
Or no, this is, it was reported in 2021.
Okay.
Let me see when the emergency declaration was.
That is a good question.
2015.
So from 2015 to 2021, so basically 6 years, there's been 200 and some $million.
Right.
Dang. That's insane. So, man, that's crazy. That is a lot of money.
It is.
Well, and that's the crazy thing. It's like, since 2015 to now, I mean, like, in your opinion...
It's gotten worse.
I was going to say, has it gotten worse? Yeah, has it gotten worse? Well, so, and that's one thing that people are saying, especially with California, is the budget has actually gone up and up and up every single year with California specifically, at least in LA, I should say. In LA's budget, they spend, like, I think, they want to say it's like, now it's like $480 million just on homelessness, which is insane. That is a crazy amount of money just to put towards that. And there's like 100,000, or not 100,000. I don't know how many homeless there are in LA specifically, but I think they have 2/3 of the state's homeless people are in LA County, like the whole
Wow.
Yeah, and the rest of it's spread out everywhere else. And I know San Francisco has a lot of it as well, because especially San Francisco apparently is known for being like very accommodating to those things. But I want to say that like it like used to be close to around 200 million, which is already a crazy amount of money. But I know they like basically doubled it since then, like, and it's just gotten more and more and more. But there's like a lot of it spent in like the bureaucracy of trying to solve homelessness, which essentially you're building businesses around a problem, which means like if you solve the problem that the businesses are no longer necessary, so all those people are out of work. So instead of trying to solve the issue, you're kind of just trying to put a band-aid on it. And a lot of times when you're trying to put a band-aid on it, you're just making the problem worse. So it just ends up causing like, it's like sugar is very bad for cancer, but it's like if you have cancer, you should stop eating sugar. But then you're like, well, if we have a bigger cancer thing, we probably have more to work on. So you just keep eating sugar, and it's like that's not helping you. That's doing the opposite. Like you don't need more sugar in your system. You need to like figure out how to get rid of the cancer. And it's kind of the similar thing. That's a horrible analogy to make for homelessness. That's like god awful. I'm sorry, but like it's the same issue of like you're thinking you're solving the problem by just throwing money at it, but like there's plenty of money. It's being misallocated. It's being misused, and a lot of like times that just means that the homeless problem gets worse, and so it doesn't actually help anybody, and things just go nowhere. So that's where I think if we actually had reasonable, I think, governance and politicians that wanted to really solve it and not just say I'm throwing more money at it, then I think that would be a much better step in the right direction, which I think would then open the door for universal basic income. Because I think then it would be much more of an actual expectation that people can hold on to and not think is outrageous. Because it's like, hey, our government's actually done something right and helped these people get back on their feet. And now that they're back on their feet, we can actually help them continue on in life, and we can help everybody, because then we're not blowing hundreds of millions of dollars on homelessness. Now we can allocate that money that we were spending to this atrocity that's going on in our country to now actually utilizing it to help maintain a healthy lifestyle for people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, or even subsidizing like healthier food, and subsidizing or allowing people to have like, yeah, I guess subsidies for like gyms, like for just being able to go and be active and like investing more in like outdoor recreation. Like those are all things I think could very much benefit, I don't know, the whole daily life of the country, but I think the government doesn't want to spend money on that, so. Is it outside?
It is.
Dang.
It's a truck.
I was like, I don't know if that's like inside, because I know, oh no, the smoke alarms are like beep beep, and so
Smoke alarms are much louder.
I was like, I wasn't sure if it was like in the next apartment over, but then I realized we're on the corner and I only share one wall, so
Oh,
yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah, so there you go. Cool. So yeah, so that's kind of the interesting thing is like the homelessness issue has gotten worse since you've gotten older. Like I don't know, because it just seems like coming in is just something that's been there,
Mm-hmm.
And I've never been to, I've been to LA, but I've never seen kind of like how bad it falls. I've been to LA and I've seen part of like Skid Row and things like that. Whenever I was like, but I was like 11.
Okay.
So this was like 15 years ago. So it's not like I don't know what the state of it is now. And I've heard it's gotten much, much worse. So it's just kind of interesting having the perspective, like you've grown up here, you kind of understand what it's like. And then as a newcomer, I'm kind of just like, there's a lot of homeless people, like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what makes you bring up UBI? Like,
It just popped into my head. I was just,
Yeah.
just wondering what you thought about it.
Well, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a good idea, and especially, I mean, I think that if we don't raise the minimum wage, we have to do something else because many people just don't have enough to live on.
Yeah.
Rent is so high.
Oh my gosh, yes.
How much is your rent, if you don't mind me asking?
Here it's with pet rent, and after it being raised for the year, it's $1,110.
Wow, that's actually not bad.
It's very good. So Rachel and I, when we moved here, so I took the job with the church before I even had a place out here. So I was like, cool, I'll be out there as soon as I can. And so I basically packed up my stuff. I sold what I could, and I packed what I could into a U-Haul trailer and moved up here. And we stayed with a family from the church that basically had remodeled their the attic, the one above, right? So they remodeled that and like put stairs from the outside up into it to make it like its own small apartment.
Nice.
It's basically just a studio apartment, but it was really nice. It had its own kitchen. Like it was such a good setup. The only thing is you're living above somebody's garage and like they're partially in their kitchen, so they hear everything you're doing. You like if they're walking around, or you can hear them in the kitchen talking. So it's not like the nicest place, but it's also like it was a free place to live for a few months just to try and get on our feet. And we spent that time just looking for apartments that were 2-bedroom, that were within a reasonable price range that allowed pets. And so we saw a ton of places, and most of them, especially in Oregon City, were all at least $1,200. And that was for a 1-bedroom that didn't allow pets.
Okay.
So we realized that that we had to kind of widen our scope at that point, because most places didn't have rent that we could afford, because at that time it was also just my income too. And I didn't know when Rachel was going to work, so it was like I had to pay for the car, the gas, groceries, and as well as pet rent, our rent, and like utilities and everything just on my income. I was like, we gotta live on rice and beans for a while if we're gonna be paying that much, because it was like, even if it's $1,200 for just a 1-bedroom with no pet, you still have utilities and the other stuff that you have to factor in.
Right.
That makes everything so much more expensive. So I was like, okay, what can we afford? And so then we ended up widening our search. We were looking in Milwaukee. There was a place in, I think it was, I want to say it was in Oregon City. It was like this tiny little house actually, but it badly needed to be renovated. Like it was like really, really bad. And I think it was around like $900 or $1,100 a month, just to start. And I was like, okay, that's reasonable. And it's like, it's a house, but like walking in and looking at it, it was pretty rough. And especially when I look back on it, I'm like thinking about that place. It's like, yeah, the place is probably not good. It probably was not a good place. Rachel didn't feel super good about it, and I didn't feel super good about it. I think, just in my mind, I've always kind of had an attitude of like, you just got to suck it up, like it's like, hey, this is a place we can afford. Like we got to just suck it up. Let's take a year. Let's do a year. That's it. But I also can't just be like, again, can't do that if somebody else doesn't feel comfortable. Like if Rachel, my spouse, does not feel comfortable with that, I can't force everybody to be like, hey, we're sucking it up, period. So we can do that to a point. Either spouse can be like, hey, we kind of have to go with it. Like, fine, but not with something that big. So we kept looking, and then we found this place, and it was like a really kind of whim thing. We called the property manager, and we're like, hey, we saw this. When can we like do a visit? And they're like, how about tomorrow? I'm like, sure. And so then we like literally, I like told my boss at the time, well, he's still my boss, Bruce. Told Bruce, I was like, hey, Rachel and I are looking at an apartment tomorrow, so I kind of have to take some time during the week. He's like, dude, it's part of your job. Find a place to live. He's like, just go. Find a place to live. So we get here, we check it out, and I was like, dude, this place is like really nice. And like there was like kids playing, and because it was also in the middle of COVID too. I mean, this was like 2021. So like there was like no sign of vaccines anywhere. So no, this is still 2020. This is like no, it was beginning of 2021 because it was January. And so we're like just in the middle of everything. Vaccines aren't even a thing yet. Like they're still talking about masks and everything. And so checking things out, and I was like, okay, the floors are a little bit creaky, and they still are. It's like, but there's decent carpet. The walls are well painted. There's decent storage for everything, and it's like we don't have very much stuff. And it's like, and they allow pets. Plus, we have a balcony, and like during the day, it's like nice and sunny. I was like, and there's a pool. I was like, okay, like I can like. And Rachel and I were both like, this place is pretty nice, and the rent was reasonable. And then we're like, okay, hey, when are you looking to have somebody move in? And they go, as soon as possible. And I was like, shoot. I was like, Rachel, I was like, this place is like the perfect place. It's like not super far away, but it's kind of far away. It wasn't what we were really hoping for. So we wanted something to be close by so we can have kids over and things like that. But we realized if we're able to find a place that's affordable, that's within driving distance, we should just jump on it.
Right.
Especially now. Like now I look at what place that we got now. It's like, for that price, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
because when we first got here, it was only $10.70, and it was $25 for pet rent, and so then it was like just $10.95. So then obviously it raised it another $25 or something like that. So, or $15 or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so then it's only been a marginal raise in price for just the next lease that we have, and it's been a really good place ever since. Not, only thing is like sometimes the neighbor's a little bit me, but that thing is any apartment complex, that's just how it is. But other than that, it's been great. So yeah, and I agree, rent, especially looking at the economy and stuff, is like insane to think about. And getting back to what you were talking about with minimum wage and it not being high enough, like, yeah, I don't know if you don't have like at least one or two roommates. Like, I don't know how people can afford rent on minimum wage. I have no idea. So, yeah. Yeah, no, I think when it comes to UBI, I think. Well, I mean, what do you think is more likely to happen though? That they would raise the minimum wage or approve universal basic income?
I think raising the minimum wage would be more likely. I think that they would not. A lot of people would be against handing out basically free money.
Yeah.
To everybody.
That's fair. Yeah, that is pretty hard. And the thing is, like, a lot of my politics in general, like, I lean fairly conservative, I guess ish, but I'm very like middle of the road on a lot of stuff, and like that's where I would say like universal basic income, like that's not really a left or a right leaning idea. That's hardcore, like a very much a liberal or left leaning perspective to have. But I don't think that's a bad thing. Like if it's managed and taken care of in a reasonable way, then totally fine with it. But that's where it's like my right side of like I don't trust the government to actually do that very well, because the government handles very few things very well. But God willing, like we were able to have a reasonable way to collect that from our taxes without it necessarily spiraling the economy very bad. I would 100% be for that, because I think like if it's within reason, you provide people just even as like basic money to, like, I mean, like paying for healthcare. Like, let's say you give everybody $500 a month just to pay for healthcare. Like, that's a decent amount of money to like put towards a healthcare plan per month. It's like some people I could get healthcare for Rachel and I. I mean, it'd be like the cheapest possible plan, but like it'd be like $300 a month for the both of us. It's like that's pretty cheap healthcare, but we still have it. So let's say $500 a month for two people. That's not unreasonable. That's a good amount of money, and then you still have a PPO, like a PPO or POP or PCP plan. Man, but you still have all those different options for like private providers, and like you can still privatize the industry, so we can still have the infrastructure that we have of like nice healthcare, with like getting appointments more quickly, and you can still talk to your doctor on the phone, all that jazz. So you still keep the benefits of the current healthcare system that we have without needing to like make it a bloated government system that's like over bureaucratized, and it's able to be privatized and still be efficient enough to like work for the people. But we're not slaving just to try and have healthcare. I don't know. I think that would be an easier thing to do too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, but I'm not in charge, Amanda. So what does Sarup think of? Have you talked to him about universal basic income or no?
No, I haven't.
Do you guys like? I don't know, because like, I don't know. For me and Rachel, like, we don't really get super in depth with a lot of political stuff. It's kind of just like, I mean, we've been together for 6 years, and we talk about politics and stuff like that. But like, Rachel's not super invested in it, and I just get frustrated with it most of the time. That's kind of where I'm like, dude. Like, we can talk about it. Like, you and I can sit here and talk about it all day. And it's like, hey, I think that's a great idea. And it's like, I think it's a great idea. I don't think it's that hard. And it's like, well, that's what that's ending. Because I can call my local representative, and I can talk to them, and I can pick it in the streets. But, like, I'm only, like, one person, And I think it takes a momentum of a lot of people moving in the same direction in order to be able to do that. And I don't know, like, from my perspective, if there's a lot of people that are moving in the same direction anymore. Everything seems very scattered. But that's why it's kind of hard for me to sit down and have a conversation with Rachel about it, because we're kind of like, well, okay, we can talk about it. But I was curious if you and Sarup ever talk about very many political things or stuff like that.
No, we don't really.
Do you like to talk about that stuff?
I don't really.
I'm sorry, Amanda.
No, it's fine. I don't dislike it.
Yeah.
It's just not something I talk about very much.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. I think most people don't really necessarily enjoy talking about it. I think for me, I enjoy listening and I enjoy having kind of a dialogue about it. But at the same time, like, I think if that was all I ever did, I'd be pretty frustrated with it. So if it was like something that I did on a regular basis, I'd be like, we've had this conversation about 20 times. But yeah.
It just doesn't really, I don't follow it very closely anymore. I don't follow politics.
Did you used to?
In high school, I was really into politics. I thought it was like the most important thing.
Okay.
I started a political interest club.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of like fizzled that interest, if you don't mind me asking?
I have no idea. I think I see that I have less of an impact now.
Yeah.
Because I used to think like everyone needs to vote and I need to vote in a way that's well informed. And I still think that's important.
Yeah.
But also I'm just one person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... Man. Well, I think... Like, do you ever think about what it was like in, like, colonial times? Or, like, the early Americas?
Not really.
No? Well, because I feel like, you know, the towns were so much... Like, the world was so much smaller for them.
Yeah.
Like, towns were, like, a few hundred people. And the other towns are a few hundred people. And, like...
You show up to the town hall and you tell them your opinion.
Yeah, and your local representative is right there. And you could go punch him in the face. And everyone's like, oh, man, Jim was so angry at Bob, but Bob got it. And then it's like, oh, okay, let's restrain Jim. It doesn't need to be a douchebag. This is a public square, okay? But, like, now it feels... Also, you know, Amanda, I just realized something. And I really hope that hold on, I'm going to check something on the computer. Because I really hope that this has not been... The mic might not be recording. Let me see what the input device is. Let's see. Output is... No, it's my speaker headphones. It's fine. The input's still the microphone. Okay, so we're good. All right.
Good.
It was trying to input and exput, or input and output from the same. Okay. All right, that's good. It's still recording. But no, like the towns were so much smaller. That would have been really bad. That would have been really bad, dude. You're like, hey, we're like over an hour talking already, and you're like just ruined the whole thing. Like it's okay, it's fine. But yeah, because like it was such a smaller world, so your local representative was right there, you know, and like you could go over to his house and knock on his door and say, hey, this is a really important issue to me, and like this is an important issue to me and all the other people that work in this town. So you need to bring that to them and tell us about that. And now, like we've gotten so big, like we're so much bigger than that now, especially in like a huge area like this. You know, where I mean, Portland's not that big of a city, but it's still just like it's so big that you can't just go down to your representative's office anytime you want. Like they got other stuff they're doing, but then like bureaucracy within that now is so complicated and convoluted from what it used to be too. So now it just kind of becomes this, like, yeah, you are just one person, which sucks because that's not really how it should have been. You know, we all were individuals and we had the individual right and the importance to vote, but we had so much more influence as a people. We could all communicate and talk about stuff.
Right.
And now everything's kind of just so spread out, you know. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I don't know. I literally just thought of that when you were talking about like you're only one person, and it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks today. And I was like, but what about back then? You know, the good old days. But yeah.
So you play guitar?
I do play guitar. I'm self-taught on all instruments that I play, but
Nice.
so I'm pretty rusty on all of it, really. But I love music. I like, I don't know. I don't know. Like at least for me, it's something that just when I like really vibe with the song. Like it's this. I don't know. When I was growing up, especially in high school, I used to middle school and high school, I used to just sit with like my little CD player, and I would just like lay on my bed for like hours and just like listen to music and just like zone out and like really get into music.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know if that was like just a weird thing that I did, but like music has always been very like impactful for me. It definitely resonates with like how I'm feeling. Like if I'm not feeling a song, then I'm like, nah, I'm not about it. But if I'm like, if it for whatever reason, sometimes it just strikes a chord, and you're like, whoa, like that thing hits hard. So I've cried at quite a lot of songs. I've also got very angry a lot of songs, and also got really happy a lot of songs. So I don't know, I think music has a very big impact on me.
Music is powerful.
It is. Do you play any instruments or?
I play piano.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's cool. How long have you played piano for?
Well, I played it from when I was 5 to when I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
And then I kind of stopped for a while. So I stopped playing it like officially.
Yeah.
And then I think over a year ago, I think in 2020, I started taking lessons again. But then I stopped again. So I haven't been playing for a while.
Yeah. Do you feel like if you were to hop in front of a piano, you might still like kind of know your way around it?
Oh yeah, you never forget, or I'll never forget that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I mean, do you have a reason for why you stopped again, or
piano?
Yeah.
It got expensive, and I just wasn't in the place. And I was starting school. I got really busy with school.
Yeah, that's life, dude. Man.
But I think I might start it up again this summer. Start up lessons again.
Yeah. Do you do you do it just mostly for your own whimsy, or like
Yeah, and since taking lessons, I noticed so much improvement.
Okay.
Because before I was just playing for fun, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But I wasn't improving. But my teacher she's a good teacher. She's worth it.
It's good.
Worth that money.
Yeah. It is. So it's actually interesting. I had a student, his name is Neil, and this little junior guitar right here. I got this from the youth room, in the high school youth room in California when I was the middle school youth pastor. And that guitar had been there in the youth room the entire time that I was there for, about 2 years. And so towards the end of my tenure there, just saw the guitar, and I was with Neil, and Neil was playing on the piano, and he was a high school kid at the time. And he actually got certified in the state of California to teach music.
Oh, you need a certification?
Well, yeah, I think he had to go through to actually be a music teacher to understand and be able to understand and teach music theory. I think you have to have some kind. I don't know exactly what it was. This is how his mom explained it to me. So I should say this. That's how his mom was saying it. And Neil will downplay it a lot, but his mom was like, dude, no, he actually has this kind of crazy. He's really good.
Really?
And he is. Neil is a freaking stud. And Neil, one day when you listen to this, because I'm going to make you listen to it, Neil, you're a stud. I love you, buddy. He's currently in the Navy, but he's still he plays guitar and bass, piano. I think he's definitely played the ukulele before, but he just understands music and music theory very well. He's crazy intelligent, just out of this world smart. Just an awesome. And that's why you're talking about piano. I think when he was explaining, because he taught me guitar and he taught me kind of keys and different things like that a little bit. He showed me on a piano.
Okay.
Now, granted, I don't. If you were to sit me in front of a piano now and try me to walk you through what he told me, I'd be completely lost.
That's fair. That's fair.
But he helped me to kind of visually understand where things are at when you're playing them, and hey, so you see this string, and it starts off at this note. This is down here, and then whenever you push on a fret, then it kind of moves it up a little bit. So it's a different note, and then but you're pressing on all these different strings or notes at the same time. It makes different notes. So that's why it's you can play one chord or one string at a certain fret and hey, that's a G, or you can put like 3 or 4 strings, like press down on them at the same time, play all of them, and that's also a G. And you're like, whoa, like so just understanding that is like kind of cool. And I think like people that are able to play piano like yourself just understand music, and I think understand keys a lot better than I think people that don't know that. Like that's how I feel as someone who doesn't know how to play piano. I just like whenever he was explaining to me, it seemed like whoa, like it like kind of literally lays it out in front of you. It's all there, and you're like, wow. But yeah, no, that's really cool. I actually used to play piano. Well, I took piano for a little while, and we stopped because we just weren't into it. My mom was really mad that we stopped. But, yeah, she regrets it. My sister regrets it. I don't necessarily regret it because I still followed through with playing other instruments and doing stuff like that. But I do regret not understanding music theory nearly as much. So that's a huge advantage I think like you piano players have. That like you said, you're never gonna forget all of it, which is really cool. So. Do you start that out of just your own passion, like when you were a kid, or
no? My parents wanted me to.
Are your parents musicians?
No.
Are they musical at all?
They sing in church.
Okay. Yeah, they sing on a Sunday. There you go. That's cool. Are they good singers? It's okay, Mom and Dad. Probably never gonna listen to this. It's okay. That's fine. That's hilarious. Well, honestly, that's like, and I'm not gonna say I have a good voice because I don't think I do. But I think I have a mediocre voice. I should say that. And the thing is, I think most people really don't have a good singing voice. Like, I think that's why when you hear somebody sing really nice, and you're like, I think everybody, their head kind of turn, like your eyes light up. You're like, whoa, like hearing like that beautiful note come from someone's mouth, you're like, wow. Like, I don't know, it's so unique. It's like something that like, it seems not unique because there's like, that's who we see. We see performers. We see all these people that are famous. We like go on Instagram and you see all these people like playing and singing these beautiful things. And you're like, wow, there's like so many talented people out there. But it's like, they're like 1% of the people that actually like pick up a guitar, pick up a microphone. So it's kind of interesting to see like, how rare that actually is. And you can train your voice a little bit, but for the most part, some people just don't have a good singing voice. It's kind of sad. But
yeah, I was in choir too, and my sister is actually a choir teacher now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has a lovely voice.
Is she older or younger?
She's older.
How old is she?
I think she's 26.
Okay.
Yeah, just 2 years.
Yeah. Is it just you and her?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up, I only had my one biological sister, Sabrina, and then my mom got married to Chris later on, and then I grew up with my sisters, Sabrina, Gabriella, and Victoria. And so Victoria's the oldest, Gabriella's the middle, and then Sabrina. And then later on, I gained other step siblings, but I've always been the youngest out of all of my siblings, and now I have, there's Samantha, Christian, Vanessa, and then her husband now, Greg, Victoria, Robbie, Gabriella, Sabrina, and then Jillian.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got 9 now technically.
Wow.
Including in-laws. So yeah, it's interesting. It's I technically only have like one like biological sister, but yeah, got a lot more other siblings. So
nice.
Yeah, but it's funny because me and Sabrina are only 2 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh yeah, she's only 2 years. I'm like, oh, me too. Do you think like being the baby out of you two, like did that ever cause a tension between you and your sister at all? Like you being the youngest and her being like kind of the oldest and kind of taking the brunt of stuff, or no?
I don't think it was her taking the brunt of things. I think it was her doing things first. And I didn't like that because she would always like tell me about them before I got to experience it.
Oh.
Or
okay.
She'd tell me how to do it and she would be the know-it-all. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha. Yeah. So are you the type of person who likes, you kind of like surprises? You kind of just like to...
I like forging my own path.
Gotcha.
So I think that led to me craving more independence as I got older.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do things my way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool. I think, I think I have a similar outlook and a similar desire, but I think for very different reasons. I think I just like to be like rebellious. I think kind of have that like wild hair streak in me that I'm just like, everyone does this. It's like, I don't want to do that. And it's just like there's no like rhyme or reason to it. I just have this like inclination to just like go the opposite way. Like just, and it's not even like in a very demonstrative way either. I just like, huh, everyone's going that way. It's like, I'm gonna go the other way. And everyone's like, Gabe, where are you going? It's like, just the other way. It's like, why? Like, because I want to go the other way. Why are you going that way? It's like, Gabe, what are you doing? It's like, I don't know. Like, it's just like there's no actual like, and like sometimes I know I intend to do it just to be irritating to people. Like I just know that's like part of like my personality. I know I kind of like to ruffle people's feathers just for whatever reason. But then I also just, you know, for whatever reason, just seem to want to kind of go against the grain for, I don't know, anything. So when I see I think that's why like when I see a lot of people pushing one way or like moving one direction, like would it be like politically or socially, I'm kind of just like, I don't like that. Like unless I'm already kind of in that camp and then everybody kind of joins in later, then I'm like, oh, okay, I'm okay with that. But if like say there's a movie everyone wants, okay, so let's say the newest Spider-Man movie.
Okay.
Like all the Spider-Man movies, every single time they came out, everyone's like, "Oh, you gotta go see it. Oh, it's gonna be great." And I was like, "No." Like, why? I don't know. I don't want to. It's like, I know they're a big part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and so they play a big part in that. And like, I like the Marvel movies, and I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm like, everyone's pushing me to go see it. I'm like, now I don't want to see it anymore. I'm just like, I'll be left out, I guess.
So have you seen any of them?
Nope.
Nice.
And like
Tear guns.
so part of it is like now because I think the hype is over, I want to see the first one because I'm just like I don't even know. Oh no, I've seen the first one actually. I did see the first one finally because I think Rachel and I we were looking for a movie to watch together, and I finally was like, well, let's just watch that one. I haven't seen it, and I know it's part of the thing, so I was like, okay, let's do it. And besides that, I haven't seen any of the new ones, but like I know some of the villains in them, especially the second one. I don't even know. Oh, is it Mysterio? Maybe.
I haven't seen them.
Okay, well there you go. Cool. Do you have a reason for not seeing them?
No.
You're just like, yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't seen them.
Are you into movies very much or no?
Yeah. I mean, I like movies, but I'm not into any genre or any series, really.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's say top 3 movies of all time. That's your top 3 favorites.
I really like Fight Club.
Oh yes, Fight Club is so good. Yes. Okay. All right.
There's this movie called A Little Princess.
Okay.
It's about this girl who's growing up in a boarding school, and can I spoil it?
That's fine. Yeah, you're good.
So her dad goes to war, and
Okay.
he gets hit with mustard gas. He loses his memory, but they think that he died. So they make her like a servant, and she lives in the attic. And then eventually one night she's going to get arrested because they blamed her for stealing something. And then she runs into the other house next door, and there was her dad, but he doesn't recognize her.
Oh my gosh.
It's the most heartbreaking scene ever.
Oh my gosh, I want to cry. Oh my gosh. Ah, that's horrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Dude, Amanda. Okay, so the thing is, like, I'm also, like, I'm doing great.
It's okay.
I like, oh man.
Eventually he remembers her.
Oh, that's good. That's good. See, I'm also, like, okay, I am a sucker for, like, a really good storyline. Like, but also, like, I like storylines that, like, rip my heart out. Like, something like that. You're just like, no. Like, you're just, like, makes you feel horrible, but you're like, because it's so good, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, like, such a, like, a passionate, real thing that like I think that's kind of why I like really good music too. Like it just like brings out that raw emotion out of me, and I'm just like yes, like ah. Oh. Okay, so A Little Princess.
I'll show you that clip later.
Yes, definitely. That oh my gosh, that oh yes. Okay.
And I don't know about my third one. Maybe
I don't know.
I can't think of the name.
Okay. How's the story go?
There's a man, and he's a little slow.
Okay.
And Tom Frank. Wait, is that his name?
I have no idea.
He's a famous actor.
Okay.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
Oh, Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Yes, you're talking
Yes.
about Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Yes,
So
Forrest
sorry.
Gump.
Yeah.
Yes, the OG.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you talking about a freaking roller coaster of emotions in that one.
Yeah.
He's.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, "What are you waiting for the bus for? It's right down that street." He's like, "What? Thank." Just runs over to her house. Like, oh my gosh. Oh man, such a good movie. Those are some solid choices,
They
dude.
are.
Gosh dang, that's like 3 very different genres of movie. Gosh dang.
What are your favorites?
Okay, so I will say I suck at picking favorites.
Okay.
I am a very like you can ask me this today and you can ask me it tomorrow and I probably would have 2 different answers because I like so many things, and like my youth kids always make fun of me because like I'm like, oh dude, I love this song, oh I love this song, oh I love that, oh I love that, and I'm like, because I just like I'm very passionate about things that I love, and I love a lot of things. So, I would say, man, that's really hard. Favorite movies. Okay, so there's one that will probably be fairly consistent for me. And it's called About Time.
I've never heard of it.
It is, believe it or not, I'm going to pull it out of this container right here because all of my movies are in this container. It is this one right here. It's with I don't know if it's Julie Roberts. I don't know. No. Is that her? Is that Julie Roberts?
No.
No. What's her name? I've seen that movie at least 8 times, so.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yes. So it's like he's the guy who like all the men in his family can travel back in time.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. Easily one of my favorite movies of all time. Of all time.
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams. By the way, Rachel McAdams, if you ever listen to this, which I never will, you are a very attractive woman and you are amazing in that movie. So stay yourself, woman, because you're doing great. And that actor, I don't know his name, whatever his name is, he was in the latest Star Wars movies.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was in the newest series of them. He ends up becoming like I don't know if he's the Galactic General or something like that. I forgot his name. I'm not really super into the newer Star Wars movies, but that's okay. But yeah, that movie gets me every time. I cry almost every time I watch it. Easily. I'm a crier too. Like I'm just like wearing my heart in my sleeve without even a second's hesitation. And
How he has to pick between his child and his sister.
I know, it's horrible. And it's like and then like at the end it's dad.
Oh.
It gets me every time. And granted, I grew up without a dad. I'm sure I've told you this before, mentioned in group, but like growing up without a dad, I never really thought it was that big of a deal. I don't really think it's like, I still don't necessarily think it's like a massive thing. But I'm realizing in a lot of ways that like it's had a unexpected effect on me in like smaller ways. So like for one, that story is very related to a boy and his dad, and like the relationship that he has with his dad, and how he kind of develops his life and finds all these amazing things, but then he like can't go back eventually. He can't. Like he's so close with his dad, and he's been able to experience all these awesome memories with him and do all these different things, but he can't eventually go back with him. He has to say goodbye, and it's like this really powerful thing, and like they get to share memories together and stuff like that. Like I can still have plenty of those with my mom. I think like a relationship between like a father and a daughter, and then a mother and a son. I think like those are very unique relationships that like, for whatever reason, they're just a little bit different, you know. And so I think I got the better end of the stick, you know, when it comes to like having a single mom raise me, especially considering who my dad is. But um, in terms of like unexpected things that kind of happened or like effects it's had on me, there was one thing I was thinking about with Rachel, was I was sitting down talking with her and I was like, you know, like when I think about having kids, like I don't know what it's like to like have a normal dad. Like I don't know what dads do because like I've never had a dad when I was a kid. Um, I don't know how dads act in the morning. Like I don't know how like what's normal for dads to just like an adolescent dad in the household does. Um, so that's like something that's like I didn't think about that until literally like a month ago, and I was like, huh, I don't know what I would do. Like I just don't know how I would be with a
You
kid.
haven't had that example.
No, never. And like I've had my grandpa in the house or like at his house, but like he's been like 50 years old my whole life. So he's been like someone who's been way older than me for a long time. So it's hard to say like, oh yeah, like that's you know what a dad does. It's like no, that's what my grandpa does. Like I've seen a grandpa. Like I've seen a grandma. I've seen a mom. I've seen an aunt. I've seen an uncle. But like I've never had like a dad in the house that I can like because my mom was married to Chris for a long time or a few years, I should say, and we visited him on the weekends. But like it was a very different relationship. Like it wasn't stable. He wasn't there all the time. I wasn't living with him all the time, and eventually like we stopped seeing him. Um, so it's kind of like this, huh? Well, that's like from like 11 years old on, like so from like you know 4 to about 6 was living with him, and you know I don't really remember that very much, and then 6 to 11 was sparse if best, and then 11 to now it's like still don't know what that's like. So it's kind of this interesting dynamic to think about, like you know like when I see like suburban dads walking with their kids, I'm like, huh, I wonder what their life was like. I don't know. But I think that's probably why that movie specifically touches a big thing in my life. And I think that's more of a very recent revelation for me. Just like thinking about like how meaningful it is. But I think it's like it's a love story also from a man's perspective. I think
Yeah.
it's like it's a very lovey-dovey romantic movie, but it's like the guy being the one who's like gets to be like gushy over the woman and like chasing after her and like being able to like have the excitement of starting that relationship and being able to experience that through a man's side is interesting because like that's how my life is, you know. It's like I've always been a very lovey-dovey, unfortunately chasing after women a lot. And so it's like I still had a lot of feelings for, even if I was chasing after a lot of girls, I still had very strong feelings. And so it's like it's interesting to see like now as a married man like being like get able to look back and like, oh, that like cutesy time, you know, when you're still dating and enjoying everything and kind of that excitement of stuff, and then obviously like we talked about earlier, like having a family and having kids, and like you know that you get to see that in that movie and like see this whole stage of life that they're going through. You're like, oh. So yeah, I don't know. I really like that movie mostly because of that. And on the flip side of that, I love The Godfather.
Okay.
Love The Godfather.
Haven't seen it.
It's so good. It's very long. It's a lot of dialogue and it's kind of slower paced, and then it just gets like intense, which is kind of I think I don't know. I've enjoyed that a lot more as I've gotten older, like a slower paced movie, and then it just like, comes out of nowhere. And as a now I'm thinking of like the last one. I think of like any of the Quentin Tarantino movies I could put in there. I don't know if you know many of those movies at all, like Kill Bill, Hateful Eight, Reservoir Dogs. Oh my gosh, you know any of those movies? You heard of any of them?
I've heard of Kill Bill.
Okay, yes, that was like one of his biggest ones for sure. Oh, Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
So that's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Okay.
Very Quentin Tarantino-esque. Broken up storylines, kind of like intense all of a sudden, and then it's like seemingly calm, and you don't know where you're at in the movie, and there's like multiple plots going on at the same time, and all kind of towards the end makes sense, but it's still kind of confusing. So I don't know, and it sounds.
You describe it very well.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of why I like those movies because it's kind of all over the place, but it's also like you have to pay attention. You're like, whoa, whoa, and it's like almost seemingly like Fight Club too. Like there's this underlying storyline happening. There's things going on in the background. You're like, what is going on? Like, is like what's happening? It's like no, and then you're in the end. You're like, it's him. He's both. Like it's like oh. So yeah. So I'm gonna limit it to that. How about that? I'll say About Time, The Godfather, and then the Quentin Tarantino movies because I cannot pick a favorite.
Okay.
So yeah. Would you say you like a slower or a faster paced movie? Like.
I think faster.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I'm. Well, I think I mentioned in the group. There's a movie called Belfast.
Uh huh.
That I don't. Have you seen it or no?
I have not.
Oh, okay. I was like, I was like, oh, maybe you went and saw it. Like that one's like fairly kind of slower paced because it's kind of just like everyday life in Belfast, you know. But it's like everyday life during like the Troubles, whenever like there's a bunch of rioting. So it's kind of like this one neighborhood that's kind of at a precipice of like we gotta figure things out. Like, really gonna stay or we're gonna go? Because like we have to kind of make a decision, and we're being pressured by like our community to figure out what we're gonna do. And it's basically the story of this kid growing up in the middle of all of it. It ends really sweet, actually. It, like, turns out really well. But it's kind of just this very kind of normal little kid, you know? He's just in black and white in Belfast. And you're like, huh. Like, it was a really cool movie, and I actually really enjoyed that. And it wasn't this, like, crazy action-packed thing, and it wasn't, like, this, like, the kid doing stupid stuff and getting in trouble. It was just this kid living his life in this crazy time. And that was it. And then there's Kill Bill, where, like, people are getting their arms chopped off.
Right.
So, I don't know. I think I'm all over the board with my movies, but, like, I think as long as it's an engaging story, that's all I really care about, you know? So, which is also why I like Godfather.
I recently watched The Dark Knight.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my
that
gosh.
was really good.
Yeah, no, So, did you only watch, like, the first Dark Knight, not, like, The Dark Knight Rises?
Yes.
Okay.
Is The Dark Knight Rises good?
They're both amazing. The Dark Knight Rises is slower, and it's longer, for sure.
Longer?
It is longer.
That was already a long movie.
Yeah, The Dark Knight was long, for sure. But, like, that one has so much going on in it that it, like, at least somebody who loves the movie, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for this part, Because there's a lot of setting up and, like, dialogue and background it gives to all the characters. So you're not just, like, thrown into the Joker's just there. Mm-hmm. Like, he's there, but this complex character that comes out of nowhere. There's a lot of nuance to him. There's a lot of dynamic stuff they put into him as a character. Genuinely, I still think he's the best Joker, like, by far, by a mile.
Okay.
So I've yet, because obviously the newest Batman series that's come out, they kind of teased the Joker in it, but he's not, you know, a central figure in it at all. So I'm interested to see how they do that later on. But up to this point, I think the Dark Knight Joker with Heath Ledger is by far the best one. So, but because of that, like, it was a long movie because they were putting so much into it. They did a lot also with the Dark Knight Rises. There's just a lot of kind of setting up this big climax of realization of who Batman is and who he thinks he is and what he's not. And so that's kind of like, it's kind of this, because I mean it is the final one of the trilogy for Christian Bale's Batman. And so it's kind of this really big momentous thing that's building up to, and you don't know what's going to happen. And so but there's also kind of a lot of, like, setting up of dialogue of side characters in the other one too, which it's kind of interesting. They set up a lot of side characters that never continued that little, you know, slew of things, but it was really, really good. So I definitely like The Dark Knight better The Dark Knight Rises is still up there with one of my favorite movies of all time. So yeah,
I'll have to watch it then.
yeah. I like, and it's funny. I like movie trilogies. Like, love the Star Wars trilogies, like the first trilogy, and then the prequels, and then Lord of the Rings, amazing, and then the Dark Knight. Obviously, she's sitting on the door. So, but yeah. So I don't know. All those trilogies are just so good for me. I don't know, but yeah. Well, I do like movies quite a bit. I also took film crit in high school, so
Ooh.
yeah, I'm literally just analyzing like, why do they have this? I'm like, let's look at the shot and how they designed this, and like, why is this person bigger in this shot? And it's like, what's the camera angle doing? It's like, why is the lighting in here like this? Breaking down like why a movie is the way it is and all this stuff is like, that's fascinating to me.
That sounds cool.
I liked it a lot, and I also had a very rambunctious group of friends that were girls that I got along with really well in there.
Nice.
They were the squad, or we were all the squad, but they were Saturn's rings. So it was, yeah.
I had a group of friends called the Squad too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I was, so they were all Saturn's rings, and there was like the inner ring, them, and then I was on the outer ring.
Oh.
Because it was essentially like, because they were all girls and they kind of had their own little like things as girls that they did together. But I was also there. I was still a part of the group. But it was like, yeah, but you're not a girl, so it's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm just here with you guys, and I end up being more like a brother kind of figure to a lot of them, anyways. So, like my friend Maya, Alicia, Alex, Maddie, and then there was another girl, Caitlin, who that didn't go well with. But yeah, she was in it, and then I kind of started having a thing with her, and then she kind of got really weird towards me and the rest of the girls, and then she just kind of like disappeared. So I was like, oh, okay. And then after that happened, I got officially moved into the inner ring. So really catty high school stuff. So
Nice.
But yeah, what was your like friend called the squad? What was that from? Just
We were all in speech and debate together.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and Spanish class.
And Spanish. There
So
you
it was me, Juan, Michelle, and Keegan.
go.
We were the squad.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your group also only had one guy, or was Keegan?
Two. Keegan.
Keegan. There you go. Okay. So it's interesting. I sometimes, well, names are kind of interesting. I don't know, to me.
Okay.
Well, because like certain names, like we assume are like kind of like a strong male or strong female name, and then there's a lot of names that are kind of in between that like Keegan. Like I've know multiple girls named Keegan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I also know multiple guys named Keegan too.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is also one of those names. Like,
Yeah.
it could be Alexander or Alexandra or I don't know, just Alex. Either way. And I've even like I don't know. Now I'm blanking on another one. Jordan.
Yes.
Like the name Jordan. It's like Michael Jordan. It's like I'm like, oh yeah, Michael Jordan. But like I knew like multiple Jordans in high school. Like one of them we just called JoJo, and the other called Jordan. One was a volleyball player, and one was a basketball player. And also, pretty sure she was married. Now she's married to a guy named Jordan. That's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was JoJo and Jordan, I'm pretty sure. Man, I forgot that was his name. I'm pretty sure it's his name. But anyway, she's in the military. They live in Hawaii now, so power to them. But, yeah. So you were in speech and debate?
I was.
Okay. So how did you like that?
Oh, I loved it. It was a big part of my life. I did Lincoln Douglas debate.
I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
That's a morals and values debate.
Oh, okay.
And then I did parliamentary debate, which is an unprepared. You just have 15 minutes, I think, to prepare before the debate. And then I did some oratory speeches. And I did prose and dual interpretation, which is like a two-person acting. And that's what I did with Juan.
Okay.
We actually made it to state.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah.
I have like almost zero idea about speech and debate. Like I have multiple kids that are like in. Oh no, They were. Oh yeah, Carter. I had a student. He was really into speech and debate. He actually went to state too. So he was very, very into speech and debate. He was telling me all about it, and I was like, I don't know anything about that world like at all. So that's really cool. And
Oh, it's fun.
funny enough, he's also very into politics too. Well, he was at least. I don't know where he's at now with it, but like very much was very into politics, and like was his parents were also like into politics and connected with certain people in politics, so like kind of higher ups, and you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't like. I was just sitting with this kid, hanging out with him, and then he's telling me about how like his parents have like, I think a photo with like George Bush, or like one of his dad,
wow.
like his dad has a picture of George Bush or something like that. I'm like, what? Like what? Either that or Dick Cheney, like one of like the people like very like high up in like the government. And I was like, who are your parents? Like, but he's a really good kid. He's very into politics. I think just because his family is, and they just talk about it very casually in the house. It's just a regular topic of debate or topic of conversation, I should say. And he was telling me about speech, and it was like, I don't know. Like for you, do you feel like that has been a fairly big help to you in life, and just understanding like those speech and debate things and how to prepare?
I don't. I think if I would have gone towards something like law or something like that, it would have been helpful.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and so I would say the other thing it would help me with is probably by making me more outgoing. But I'm not very outgoing, and I'm not very talkative.
Yeah.
So I don't think it helped me, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good thing.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if you don't mind me asking, like Rachel is always seen as very quiet and always seen as not very talkative. But like, I think that's a very limited view and perspective on a person when like you don't really sit down and talk with them. Because I think like, for one, I think you're a very good listener, and I think Rachel's a very good listener too. And I think you're just not necessarily wanting to interject all the time or like blurt out an idea. You're kind of more of a like you listen and then you kind of process and then respond. Is that like a fair assessment of like kind of how you?
Yeah, I think I'm a better listener than a talker.
And I think it's along right side of where Rachel is as well. And I think people, just because someone listens or isn't as quick to interject and stuff, people are like, oh, like you're so quiet. And it's like, I think, like as somebody who, I mean, you characterize yourself as that, but like, do you ever get like, I guess, upset when people characterize you as that, or like kind of put you in that box right away, or no?
Not really.
No.
Yeah, because I think it's accurate.
Do you like? This is more of like I guess more of a personal question, but like, do you wish that you were more talkative at all?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's such an incredible skill. Like you've got it. Sarup's mom has it. It's like the ability to turn one little story or one little thing into like this 20-minute conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when I say something, it's just straight to the point, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't add enough detail, but I feel like I can't keep the conversation going on as long as somebody else. I think that's a real skill.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, I think for me, a lot of it is more so that I kind of have a lot of thoughts. And
Okay.
I'm a very verbal processor as well. So I think I like to listen to others. I love to like listen and hear what's going on in their life. And so obviously like I work with kids and like I work with families, and for me, like in my profession, like I have to be able to sit and listen. I have to be able to understand where someone's at. Because otherwise, if I'm just talking and repeating things at somebody, then it becomes this void of meaning. Because I can just say something, but if it's not applicable to someone's life, then it doesn't matter, But I'm also very verbally processing things as well. So I kind of tend to just blurt stuff a lot. And so in terms of conversation, like, if someone's not necessarily fully interested in something, sometimes I can kind of miss that they're not that interested in it. Like, I'm sure there's probably some stuff that we talked about today that you're probably like, okay, like I don't really care that much about that game, but like I probably went on it for a lot longer than you probably would have. But it's just so sometimes it's like I can be ignorant to the fact that somebody else might not be that interested in it, but they're just being polite and listening. And other times, like it can be a very dynamic, engaging conversation with somebody, and I'm just kind of blurting, and they're agreeing, or they're like have a different viewpoint on it, and then we kind of go back and forth with it. But I think a lot of times it's more, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for Sarup's mom because she might be much more intelligent about how she interacts and talks to people. But for me, it's more of just like allowing things to kind of just flow, you know? And I don't necessarily have as much of a, hey, what am I going to think of next? It's more of just like, I'm thinking, speaking at the same time, you know? And I don't think about, I'm not consciously trying to do both of them. I'm more just like, hey, I got a thought, and I'm just verbalizing that thought now. You know, it's more of like there's a lack of barrier between the thought and it leaving my mouth, which usually gets me in a lot of trouble. And it has very, very often gotten me in a lot of trouble. But I don't think it's necessarily a skill for me, at least. Like it's just, I think I just have a lack of a filter, quite honestly. Yeah, but I also like. I think I know you might have a desire to be more talkative because you're like, oh yeah, like that's a cool skill to have.
Yeah.
I sometimes wish I like just understood. Like I wish I could read a room better. Sometimes, you know, like because sometimes I just don't. I'm like kind of oblivious because I'm in my own space, just blurting stuff out, and I miss things, you know. And other times, I could be like solemnly quiet, and people are like, "Hey, what's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'm just listening." You know, like at group, like usually on Tuesdays. The reason I ask other people questions is because like I can talk all day. I could literally take up the whole time talking, but like I don't want to be that person, you know. So it's like I want others to like communicate and talk and listen to their day. The only other problem is that some people just keep on talking, and I'm like, I haven't heard from like Amanda, or I haven't heard from Haley, or haven't heard Suzanne, or haven't heard from Fernando. um, and so it's like I don't always get to hear how everybody's doing. So that's kind of the unfortunate part is like even if I'm quiet, somebody else might talk a lot too. But that's why at group I don't really like to talk about myself very much. I feel like I talk a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that part of group going around and finding out how everyone is doing.
Yeah. Well, like for me, like, because I had approached Suzanne about it originally to kind of have a group for young adults, but the desire to kind of have like a Bible study, to sit and like let's study the Bible as a bunch, young adults and just figure out and talk through life. Because I feel like that, like we talk about life, anyways, at a Bible study. Like you're talking through something, and you're like at the end, like, hey, let's pray. Like, what's going on in everybody's life, and you get that time to like invest and see where they're at spiritually, to be able to like encourage and nurture each other whenever we're going through a hard time. Like we're supposed to, like as Christians, we're called to care for each other and do it in a way that's like infectious, in a way that causes other people to be like, man, like I wish I had people in my life that love me like that, But I know the group is not very much like that. We don't study the Bible very much, which is, as somebody who's like a youth pastor, like it kind of bugs me. But I also don't want to be like the youth pastor who's like, hey, where's the Bible?
Well, I would be open to that.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool if we did that more. We only did it once.
Yeah. How do you think that went when we did it, by the way? Like,
I think it went fairly well.
Yeah. Do you think did it feel forced?
No.
Yeah.
Not really. Maybe just a tiny bit.
Yeah. That's my issue. Like, in that, in desiring that, I don't want to be the guy who's a loud talker, who just forces things to happen. Because like, then that ruins it for everybody else. Because then it's like, Gabe just forces things to happen and makes what he wants to happen. And like as somebody who is a fairly confident person, well, outwardly confident, but inwardly I feel like I'm an inch tall. Um, like I don't necessarily want to be a wrecking ball unnecessarily, because I don't want to just like be that guy who just walks in and says we need to do this, and like just because I'm loud and I can speak doesn't mean that I need to make things go the way that I think they should. Like I'd like to have a voice of reason and like have the people that are there with me. If they're like all on board, then I'll gladly take up the helm and say, hey, this is what we're here for. That's what we're gonna do. But if nobody else is feeling it, then I'm like, okay, I'll just step back. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna do anything. Um, and I think that's kind of where I feel like at right now in our group. I don't necessarily know um, how many people in our group are hungry for that. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't know. I also haven't really taken a poll to ask. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. And let me ask you, man. I know you talked about like you seem to be like, especially when you first like you and I first met, like you seem to have a very strong hunger for like that kind of Christian environment and that Christian group and people to be able to gather around and come alongside as believers. And I'm just curious, like, do you still feel like you like have that strong Christian community? Because I know you were saying like you were able to pray with like other. I don't know. You talked at group that you'd had time to pray with different people, and I wasn't sure like if that was like with friends at work or where that was happening. But yeah,
At school.
at school. Gotcha.
So because my school is a Christian school.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Is it George Fox, right?
Multnomah.
Multnomah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I feel like I've gotten so much more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that has added a lot of value to my schooling that I've had.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely went to a secular school, so grew up with secular friends. So, sorry.
Yeah, I always went to public schools, and I kind of felt like the outsider being a Christian because sometimes things got brought up, and I was just the outsider.
See, I was like the stereotypical kid who lived two lives. Like at church, like everyone was like, man, like Gabe's so on fire. Like, 'cause I really did love the Lord. Like that was like, there was never a question about that. But it was like, I also lived as worldly as I could have been whenever I was outside of church. So, I was kind of had my foot in both camps and really didn't fully live for the Lord for a long time, even though I was a professing Christian and like we still talk about church and talk about the Bible and talk about Jesus and I would like bring my Bible to school every now and then and I would pray and I would talk to people about Jesus and bring up stuff all the time. So it was like still a part of my life and I was still like even my Christian friends were very encouraged in their faith by me, which I've learned later on in life. And I was like, why? I was like a horrible Christian, but they were like, no, Gabe, like you were a light. And I was like, where? Like I was the darkest freaking Christian ever. But I it's something that like if I do have a regret in my life, it's not getting my faith together sooner. Just because I feel like I could have brought a lot more value to my high school and my friends than I did. And I think that's kind of why with our group, like on Tuesdays, our young adults group, like I don't necessarily want to have that absent, but I also know like Suzanne and Haley and you like, and even Fernando used to, but like you guys all went to a Christian school and are doing Christian studies on some level. Like you're getting to pray at school with people, and Suzanne's working towards her doctorate, or I think so. I don't know at what point she's at. I know she's going somewhere for her doctorate. I don't know. I know she's finishing one of her degrees or doing something like that, and same with Haley. And Fernando was in school for it, and Trevor was in school for it. So I'm like the only kind of person who.
Travis?
Have you met Travis? The really tall guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he went to school with them at George Fox. I know he was an engineer, but like, I don't know if he necessarily had that. So maybe he might not be included in that group. But like still had a mostly Christian environment in college that they were grew up in and were surrounded by, and some of them are still very involved in, if not directly involved in still. And I'm not, like, yeah, my job is at a church with kids doing youth group, and like I'm involved in committees to like help my church grow and help the life of the church, and so I have a lot of things that are very much involved in aspects of the church. When it comes to just sitting and having communion and having community around the scripture, like I don't really get that, because like as a youth pastor, I'm always the guy who's leading. And I don't want to be like, you get with our group, I don't want to be the youth pastor who just sits down and says, hey, we should read the Bible. Hey, like, no, we're not going to talk, we're going to do this. And it's like, I know that also takes away a part of the group that we have right now, which is a really good conversation time. We can just sit and just relax, and like it allows all of us to kind of have a time to just not have any pressure. We get to kind of just sit with other people that are our age and just enjoy a night almost as family, kind of just hanging out. So it's kind of that, like, for me, the struggle between those two is kind of hard to know how to enter into and how to, I guess, break through that. So I don't know, but it's good. At least it's refreshing, and I figured you were kind of in that boat of like, it'd be nice to have that, because I've always kind of gotten that. I feel like you and I are kind of with the same heart and the same mind in that of like, we enjoy that kind of communion and the community around the scripture with other Christians. You guys just sitting and you're just like, this is good. Being able to read a passage and just like talking about it and finding joy in like the scriptures. So, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Amanda. You hungry?
A little bit, but I'm all right.
Yeah, right.
I'm all right.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't know. Oh, there is. Because my ankle hurts. Would you mind grabbing? So there's a leadership Bible right there on that little table next to you. It's underneath that theology book. There's a theology book to your right.
This one?
Yeah. So that leadership Bible on the bottom there. There you go. Thank you. I just had an idea to try and read a scripture to kind of wrap this up.
Okay.
But I don't know what I should read. Do you have any ideas? What's something you've been reading? Because I've been reading in Jeremiah.
I've been reading Ephesians.
Ephesians. Ooh, I love Ephesians. Okay. Oh,
unity in the church.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's kind of cool because it fits in a little bit of what we were talking about. Galatians. Oh, Ephesians, almost flipped through it. There you go, unity in the church. Oh man, I love Ephesians. I've been teaching a lot out of Ephesians the past few. Well, because remember I talked about a group a while back. I talked to you. Well, because whenever we stopped, we did read the Bible that one time. We were talking about the armor of God. So that was like right when I was starting my series of the armor of God with my kids, and I just finished that like 2 weeks ago. So it had been like a long time that I've been going through it, just because it was like a lot of parts. And now we're talking about friendships and the relationships that we have. So yeah,
nice.
Well, because like I feel like a lot of times like we talk about like, hey, you gotta have good friends, you gotta have friends who go to church, or you gotta have, make sure you don't have bad friends in your life. But like the relationships that we have in our life, whether it be like a friendship or like a romantic relationship or even our family, like those are like, they're very complicated. There's a lot of nuance to them. It's not just like, hey, that person's a good person, hey, that person's a bad person. It's like you can have like pretty like good friends that like aren't going to push you towards the Lord, and you also have like really bad friends that aren't necessarily bad of people, they're just not doing very, like, they're not pushing you towards good things. And you can have good friends that aren't pushing you anywhere, but they're good, they're loyal, they love you, they care for you, but they're not necessarily going to encourage you to strive for good things in your life. They're just like, no, yeah, just be happy. Like, it's a good friend, but I don't know if they're really going to be all that good for you. So, yeah, so anyway, I just thought I would take some time to like actually process through that with the kids and kind of like take time. So last week was talking about like good friends, and this week was talking about bad friends. And then next week we're talking about like relationships, like romantic relationships, like, the good and the bad and what they're for. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about godly friends.
Okay.
So the difference between a good friend, a bad friend, and a godly friend, and also how to have like how to be a godly friend with good and bad friends, and how to be godly in a relationship, and how to be like that person, and like identifying who's. And so the series is called Who's Who. So it's like, who is a good friend, who is a bad friend, who is like is that a bad relationship to go into, or is that is that okay to go into that relationship? It's like, and do I have any godly friends? I like identifying who's who in your life, because I think we sometimes just let people in, and we don't always understand who they are, or we just kind of continue a relationship with somebody because it's been a relationship for a long time, but you don't really think about, like, is this actually good for me? Like, is this actually something that's like good, or like, hey, am I actually good for this person? Like, am I helping them? Am I being bad influence in their life? Like, am I being a godly influence in their life? Am I being a good influence even? Like, how am I impacting the others in my life? And so that's kind of what this series is all about. So yeah, it's kind of something I was thinking about. But you're talking about unity and relationships and things like that. So yeah. And you remember the last thing you read in Ephesians, like so unity in the church, but
towards the end, it talks about putting on the armor of God to stand against evil forces.
Yep, Ephesians 6. I literally taught through that for like 5 weeks. It was great. There you go. Yeah, the armor of God. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith, which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. And pray in the Spirit on all occasions, with all kinds of prayers and requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. Pray also for me, that whenever I speak, words may be given to me, so that I will fearlessly make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may declare it faithfully, fearlessly, as I should. Should I read the last little bit too? No. Tychius, or Tychius, I don't know how to say it. The dear brother and faithful servant of the Lord will tell you everything, so that you may also know how I am, and what I am doing. I'm sending him to you for this very purpose, that you know how we are, and that he may encourage you. Peace to you, brothers and sisters, and love with faith from God the Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Grace to all who love our Lord Jesus Christ with an undying love. Cool. That's a good way to end it.
Yes.
I like that. Man. Woo! Let's go, man. And now I'm hyped. I'm like hyped up. All right. Session 4 coming to an end.